Hi folks, welcome back to Stacey Can. Today I am making a chocolate liqueur, and in my opinion, 'tis the season. It's right before the holidays, and I love making fun beverage mixers or liqueurs, etc., to share with others, to give it out as gifts, and just to enjoy for myself as well. So while I go over all of this information, please follow along down below in the show notes and hit like and subscribe while you're down there, because that does help. So the ingredients that you need, it's very simple. 2 cups of milk or whole milk, 7/8 of a cup of unsweetened cocoa, Dutch processed, in a good quality brand. More on that in a minute. 2/3 cups of vodka, and you want a good quality vodka on that as well. Middle shelf, you don't necessarily need top shelf because it's a mixer, but bottom shelf, just quality wise, you just want a good, but if you're gonna be making something like that, use good ingredients in my opinion. 1 3/4 cups of sugar and 1 1/4 cup of heavy whipping cream, or heavy cream. Doesn't necessarily need to be whipping cream, but a good heavy cream. So, and then the tools that you need a whisk, you need a stock pot because we're going to be heating up these ingredients, some measuring cups, and then a nice storage container. So that's what we need there. So about Dutch processed. It is regular cocoa powder is lighter in color, and when the beans are dried out, they just pulverize them and make them into a powder. Dutch processed is when they take the beans and they wash them in an alkaline solution. Now the purpose for that is it takes that acidity out. So regular cocoa powder has an acidy flavor, is much more acidic. It's got an acidy flavor to it. It can have that, not acid flavor, but it can have a kind of a bitter flavor to it, which is why when you're doing something like this, using something that's a little more alkaline, it's not going to be as bitter in flavor with it. It can be a little less chocolatey, but it's still fantastic in some cases. So when to use Dutch processed and when to use regular cocoa powder? Well, if you are going to be baking, you'll actually need to use regular cocoa powder, okay? Because at baking, you'll need leavening agents like baking soda. They require the acid in the cocoa powder to give rise to cakes and cookies and things like that, and quick bread. If there's no acid in the recipe with baking soda, it won't work. So in many cocoa-based recipes, cocoa powder, it's the natural stuff that provides the acid the soda needs. However, if you substitute in Dutch cocoa with Dutch cocoa, you might not get that bubbling and rising flavor thing that you need. So if your recipe though, if it calls for baking powder and includes an acidic ingredient like yogurt, sour cream, or buttermilk, then you can use Dutch processed. So if you're wondering, and I'll have all that information down below in the show notes too, so just keep that in mind. But that's why we're using some Dutch processed. So with all of that, let's go ahead and get started. First thing I'm going to do is measure out the 2 dry ingredients, the sugar and the chocolate. So it's 1 3/4 cups of the sugar and 7/8 of a cup of the cocoa powder, the Dutch processed cocoa powder. Oh my goodness, look at how rich that is. So basically 7/8 is not quite a cup. So I'm just sort of eyeballing this. That looks about right to me. Look at that rich chocolatey color. It is much, much more rich in color, darker in chocolate than regular cocoa powder. Now that I have it mixed, we're gonna, or put in the pot here, we're gonna mix it up real good. Be careful as you're mixing because all this powder residue pops up and float around and get in your nostrils. But wanna mix this sugar and the cocoa well. All right, I got the chocolate or the cocoa powder and the sugar all mixed together, and now I'm adding in 2 cups of milk, 1 1/4 cup of the heavy cream, and I'm using heavy whipping cream. And now we're just gonna combine all of this really well, making sure the solids and the liquid get mixed together well. I've got it nice and combined here in the pot, and now we'll get it ready to put on the heat. All All right, we got it nice and combined as mentioned, and so I'm gonna kick the heat up. We're gonna do a medium heat, slowly bringing this to a boil. And it's best to stir pretty consistently as you're bringing the heat up to the milk. It just works better with milk products that you don't bring it to a rapid boil. You can scald it, and just gives it a smoother, creamier texture as well. Now I have it at a boil, and this is a nice slow medium boil. And I am gonna cut the heat just a little bit, and just to make sure we're on medium heat. Look at that nice little boil. And I set the timer for 5 minutes to get this all cooked together and all those beautiful flavors melted. You don't have to stir constantly with this, but you don't want to leave the pot either. Just make sure you're close by because you can scald it. All right, the 5-minute timer's gone off, so I'm cutting the heat and giving it a quick little stir. And now we're gonna let it cool completely before adding the alcohol. The mixture has totally cooled. The pot is very cold and it tastes amazing as is. But I'm going to add the 2/3 of a cup of vodka to this and give it a good stir. Make sure I get it nice and blended. It's nice and stirred up. I'm gonna take the whisk out and set it off to the side here. And then just carefully pour it into my little container here. And this is how we make chocolate liqueur, and it is so good. It is so happily good. And it's delicious prior to adding the vodka. It's only 2/3 of a cup of vodka, so it's not a lot of alcohol in here, which is good and bad. Good because it's not too overpowering. Bad because if you keep drinking a bunch of it, it's gonna sneak up on you. And like vodka can do. So keep that in mind. You can not adding the vodka does make it a little thinner, just heads up there. If you want to just keep it without the alcohol, it really reminds me of, I had the opportunity to go to Rome a few years back, and they have a drinking chocolate there that's pretty much in all the cafes, and it's delicious, kind of warm. It's just a little bit that they give you, and this reminds me a lot of it. And I can see why they use the Dutch processed unsweetened cocoa. That alkaline, taking that, it's much more of an alkaline. It's just not that bitter. So if you use regular cocoa powder, it would taste a little bit more bitter with it. And then adding the vodka to it with that kick, the Dutch processed is a better way to go if you can find it. So that's a tip there. And you can use this for, there's so many cocktails out there that include chocolate liqueur, including there's a chocolate liqueur old fashioned with whiskey or bourbon. There's so many to count. You can also enjoy it straight if you want over ice. Kind of a fun thing to do if you choose to not add the alcohol. You can make a fun little drink by crunching up a bunch of peppermint candy canes and get a rim sort of moist, and then add sugar up the rim, so to speak, with the broken up what are they called? Candy canes. Thank you. Words are hard. And then pour the chocolate liqueur in there, or drinking chocolate if you don't want the liqueur in there, and top with a little bit of whipping cream, and that's kind of a fun beverage for kids or for folks who don't want alcohol in it. And you can do the same if you want alcohol. You can do the same type of recipe if you just kind of want to drink it straight. So it's delicious. Highly recommend. 10 out of 10, 20 out of 10. It's really good. So that's how we make it. The recipe's down below in the show notes, and while you're down there, please hit like and subscribe because that does help. And if you have any questions, comments, suggestions, feedback, concerns, by all means, please reach out to me. I'm on Facebook at Stacey Can. You can at me on Instagram and TikTok at Stacey Can. My website is www.staceycancan.com. My email is info@staceycancan.com. And you can reach me on LinkedIn at Stacey Can. So thanks so much for joining me today. And until next time, happy canning and happy holidays.